Hey, this is Stump Hunter. Today what I'm going to do is tie a jig that I've come up with, and it's imitation of a shrimp pattern that I've seen. The shrimp pattern is called a Standup Shrimp Fly. So I thought that I could take a jig body and come up with the same kind of a pattern to go with that fly, but using a 1/32 tube body jig head, which is that jig head. And what that's for is to put a tube plastic bait. You slide it on there, and then this weight gives it the weight to fish with. So what I've done, I've pulled up some of them with a number 10 hook and a 1/32. Removed just a little bit of the lead off of the hook shank to give me just a little bit more tying room right here. Alright, and to make this jig stand up, what I'm doing is taking that jig and putting it in a pair of needle nose pliers, just like that, keeping the hook vertical up, and then applying pressure and mash that lead down to where it will set straight up. So that's going to be the stand up about it. The Standup Shrimp Jig, what it's going to be used for is to brim fish and the crappie fish. Crappie will feed on grass shrimp on the flats. So you can tie this jig in about any color combination that you want. I've tied it in chartreuse. Also tied it in a yellow, red, yellow chartreuse color, which is going to be I think it's going to be a good color. In this red with a gray or black head, and using a pearl crystal flash for the antenna sticking out here, and then the monofilament eyes. So what I'm going to do is show you. Okay, I've already showed you how to mash the jig body, and like I said, you paint it any color you want. Alright, and for the eyes, what I'm using is a 30-pound monofilament, and this is really a simple process. What I do is take and cut a 3-inch piece, and that's just so I have room to work with it. And you double this monofilament over, get your ends lined up, and then squeeze the end together. So what you're going to have is pretty much of a V. What you do, you take your lighter, line them two ends up, and just heat that monofilament, and as you can see, it'll form a ball on each end of it. Alright, you can take any kind of a black paint, acrylic, and what I do is I use this because it also gives me a cap, and once you shake it up, you have paint in the top. So all you have to do with this eye is take and dip that ball in the black on both sides, and there you have your set of eyes for your jig you're going to be tying. So I make up half a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen of these beforehand, and really the night before I'm going to tie the jig, and you can set them up and let them dry, so you'll have your eyes ready. And you won't use that whole thing, but I'll show you how to cut it and what we're going to use on it here in just a minute. Alright, what I'm going to do today is tie a red one. I'm going to tie the red and the gray. Like I say, I've already got my jig head painted and flattened to where to stand up straight. So you want to put this in your vise just like it's going to set on the bottom, with your bottom down. This is going to be the top. I'm going to use a black unithread 8/0 and start your thread on your shank, run it back to the body. Go ahead and cut that off. Get your material. Your material can be any synthetic, it can be flash, really any material you'd like to use. Even a wool will work on this. So what I'm using is just a gray synthetic. I ain't no particular brand. And you want to tie this in right behind your hook out. Wrap it 3 or 4 turns, and you can pull the synthetic until you get your waist pulled up. You don't want to pull it all the way past your thread, or you'll lose your head. But once you pull it back enough, once you start wrapping, you can basically get all this material tied down with your thread patterns. Alright, see, that's pretty secure. Alright, what I'm going to do is what I try to do is take and angle my scissors from the back of the body here to the hook, to the back of the hook. So I'll have a slope shaped like a shrimp, and then cut it. Now see, when it fluffs back up, you can't really tell that angle's there, but once it's wet, you will be able to tell it. So it's basically looks like a straight pattern, but it's not, because you see me cut it from the body to the back of the hook. So that gives it about a 30-degree slope back there. Alright, I'm going to take the crystal flash, the pearl, and what this piece probably measures out about 5 inches long. What I'm going to do is double it around your thread. Get your ends even. Alright, then pull it up and start your thread right behind your hook eye. Then start wrapping this backwards. Once you get a few wraps on it, you can separate that pearl flash to either side of the body, and then just wrap back to your lead body. And that's going to give you your antenna. Right, now coming back to the eyes. Basically what we're going to do is use, there's your IVs. So basically what we're going to do is line this eye up to where it stops at the back of the hook. So I can take that and pull the two of my finger. That's about the length I'm wanting. Grab the eyes, and then you're just cutting the waist off, which will leave you your 2 stick eyes. Right, take your scissors and just rough that up just a little bit so your thread will grab that monofilament. You want to line this back to where the eyeball is basically at the end of your hook bend, and tie that in on a slope. So as you can see right there, it's tied basically on the same slope everything else is tied on. Then pull your jig up, grab your other one, just rough up that monofilament a little bit, and then tie this one in using the same method. Okay, now you got both eyeballs tied in for your shrimp. So at that time you're basically done with all your material. So pull everything back, and then just work his head, get you a good solid head. In this case it's going to be a black. And you're wrapping them eyes up real good. Right, then take a whip, finish it. Cut your thread. And don't worry about these antennas, because once they're wet, they'll do what they need to do. But you know, thinking of a shrimp, they use these antennas to search around with. So as long as they're on there, the fish will see this, and so it don't really matter which way they end up being. Once you get that, your thread tied off and whip finished, take a good super glue And that's what I'm finishing this thread head off with, is super glue. So get you a good coat on it, and that'll tie all them eyes in, so you don't have to worry about them coming out when the fish starts hitting it. And just coat it real good. And that is your Standup Shrimp Jig. And 1/32. Like I say, you can use any color you want for this jig.